There are many great performances in Oppenheimer, whether it be Robert Downey Jr.'s Louis Strauss, Emily Blunt's Kitty, or the many individuals who stand out for just a single scene to flex their acting skills. But Cillian Murphy's performance as the man at the centre of Nolan's biographical epic is the one that stands out to me as one of the best in a Christopher Nolan film. Anyone who's followed the actor's career knows what he's been capable of on screen, and with Oppenheimer being the lead role in a motion picture to give him the full recognition he deserves, I couldn't be happier. The film is incredible, and there's no doubt that Murphy's performance as Oppenheimer is one of the overarching factors that makes it as good as it is. So in this video essay, I'm going to be discussing what makes Cillian Murphy so great in Christopher Nolan's latest film, talking about the small details in his performance that make it stand out. Before I get into it though, if you want to keep up to date on any of my upcoming content for the film, then don't forget to support this upload by giving it a like rating, subscribing to the channel, and turning on your notifications. But without further ado, let's dive into my analysis on what makes Cillian Murphy great in Oppenheimer. One of the main reasons why Christopher Nolan's films are always so anticipated is because there are elements within them that we expect to be of a high level. I've talked about the adapted detail of this story, the excellent and complex screenwriting, the fantastic practical effects, and the resonance that this film has to the audience watching it. But what we also look forward to seeing is the unbelievable performances from a usually stacked ensemble. In the past, we've had the Oscar-winning portrayal of the Joker by Heath Ledger and the iconic take on Batman by Christian Bale. We've had the emotional and memorable performances in original films by Leonardo DiCaprio in Inception, Matthew McConaughey in Interstellar, and Hugh Jackman in The Prestige. And the list goes on and on beyond the lead roles in a Nolan movie. But now with Oppenheimer, we have a leading role performed by Cillian Murphy, someone who was certainly due for his time to shine in a Nolan film too. Nolan and Murphy's partnership stems right back to Batman Begins, and since then he's been playing supporting roles like Scarecrow, Robert Fisher in Inception, and the Shivering Soldier in Dunkirk. But there's many reasons why his latest performance is standing out as one of the very best in any Nolan feature, one that will likely get him many acting nominations come the end of this year too. If anything, I'd label his performance as one that is brought to life through him and his director's great partnership. You wouldn't be able to capture the nuance in his performance or the intense detail in his character's face without the filmmaking and cinematography behind it that Christopher Nolan and Hoyte van Hoytema brought to the table. This isn't just a case of an actor outshining the movie in a small but powerful role. It's an example where the high level of filmmaking, storytelling, and performance come together in harmony to benefit each other. Murphy and Nolan together created a movie that felt so raw and visceral at times that while being a thriller, also feels like it had been captured in the actual period that this took place in. The realism of it was the true spectacle, and Cillian Murphy's performance made it that much more investing. We see the moral battle constantly raging on his character's mind, how his multi-layered story saw him held as both a hero and as someone removed by his own government, and by the end, we saw how flawed and imperfect he was. And that again is a testament to both Cillian's driving performance and how the film captured that in such a detailed fashion. Coming to that performance, what I think works so well in translating Cillian's troubled protagonist to screen is that he communicates both the internal and external factors of the figure superbly. Starting with the external, one of Cillian's biggest achievements was how deeply he was able to immerse himself into the way Oppenheimer physically was. Taking on someone like this, who had a handful of verbal interviews or photographs, meant that there had to be a deeper understanding understanding of the man in order to showcase how he'd move and be visually shown on screen. The actor himself admitted that he only had a Wikipedia level knowledge of Oppenheimer's life to begin with, and he was given half a year to nail some of the physical detail. It wasn't just looking like Oppenheimer though, with the fedora and thin body type, it was aging his voice as the character aged, adjusting his vocal tone and accent, displaying his outward gestures, capturing his body language like with his famous hands-on-hip gesture during the Manhattan Project, or the eccentricities earlier on when he was going through some psychological issues. It helps to embody the character more realistically, and you get the full sense of how Cillian had fully researched and understood how this man was. Using the hands-on hips gesture as an example, I think it was quite interesting to see how Cillian portrayed Oppenheimer as someone who grew into that directorial role and was selling himself as a believable director of the project. After all, Oppenheimer was once labelled as someone not fit to run a hamburger stand, and seeing how Cillian presents that, going from an awkward standing student to a more authoritative figure at Los Alamos, comes with that approach to external performance. His manner of walking, his stance, and the way that evolves just in the first acts of the movie makes it feel like you are watching the real person develop. And move to the third act, and we see Oppenheimer conveyed in a more exhaustive manner, especially as he slumped on the sofa outside of his own hearing, with his friend Isidore Rabi trying to get him to eat. In those hearings, his words also become more stretched out, and Cillian brings a tired yet more fragilely open aspect to his performance. This reflects how Oppenheimer was willing to take his punishment and take on the martyr role that he's labelled with in the film. So externally, Cillian did a wonderful job in showing the transformation and changes in his character over those troubled years of his life. What transcends the performance though, and makes it more powerfully unique, is the way that his external attributes are combined with the internal, especially as we reach the later parts of the film. Much has been said about Cillian's own ability to convey his characters with piercing stares, and Oppenheimer is probably the best example of that trait. In various moments, we see quiet shots of Murphy just staring forward, and while moments like these may seem ordinary in other projects, there's deeper meaning behind every one of them in Oppenheimer, and we see a dark progression of it throughout the course of the runtime. For instance, the opening shot where Cillian's Oppenheimer looks down at the raindrops, you get a sense that there's this fascination, a fascination with atoms and how there's a somewhat study of reaction in nature. He's invested and believes that harnessing atomic energy from nature can result in something much more powerful. Something like this is all the more poignant when you consider what those stairs eventually become, and it especially makes sense when you understand what Cillian was told by Christopher Nolan himself surrounding the person he believed Oppenheimer to be. Cillian quoted Nolan in an interview as saying to him, "He's dancing between the raindrops." And this gave the actor the idea to play Robert Oppenheimer with feelings of quiet contemplation that convey his moral ambiguity. His compelling stare, his piercing blue eyes, and the striking expressions he gives in the last hour of the film make scenes feel purposeful and reflective to that very opening scene with the raindrops. The stares later on, especially during the AEC meeting and the victory speech at Los Alamos, become ones of intense guilt towards the energy that he helped loose on the world and the consequences that could come with that. So essentially, what was once an expression of interest in the power of nature becomes one of internal horror surrounding man-made destruction. And again, Cillian absolutely nails these stares to really showcase that shift in Oppenheimer's mindset. As a whole, you could probably say that Cillian's performance is one that transitions between intrigue, contemplation, and then eventual explosiveness. There's moments in the film that capture all of this, and I've spoken before in a separate video about what I think is the perfect scene to do so, with his performance at the very height of that moment. In one of the most disturbing yet important moments in human history, Oppenheimer had proven his theories in action with the Trinity test, and the aftermath Aftermath gave us an astoundingly nuanced scene where he had to give a speech, one that was meant to be of victory. But as we see visually, sonically, and internally in this particular moment, the man is hardly present at all, and in fact, during it, he conveys how Oppenheimer's mind is instead facing the horrifying images of burnt civilians as the result of the weapon he built and tested. Cillian does very little, but his silent yet racing mind is conveyed extraordinarily well. Little actions like his stutter of speech, his uncontrolled body language, and haunting stare into his own visions are what stands out in a moment that began with loud cheering all around him. You feel the total contrast of this scene, how his presence becomes much more internal, and how Oppenheimer is inwardly tortured by his own anxiety now that he's seen the devastating power he's introduced to the world. And combined with the techniques and approach in capturing this sequence, again speaks to that partnership between both Cillian and Nolan through performance and a psychological display of filmmaking. The sound and visuals are so powerful here, and it helps you really get into the head of Cillian's character and the expressions that he delivers in that moment. Moving on, if we transition to the later trial scenes, we get that internal state of dread brought out even more so through the form of an explosive speech. When Jason Clarke's Roger Robb grills him, he again visualizes the power of the bomb in that very room, but it builds and builds, eventually resulting in Cillian's explosive dialogue to convey the state of desperation surrounding the bomb's initial development. And this isn't just to communicate that it needed to happen, but also to show that Cillian's character is forever struggling with those issues internally. He doesn't know what to say because his creation is now in the hands of others, and he is left facing the fears of the future from a distance. It's genius the way Cillian Murphy has portrayed the inner trauma of Oppenheimer, and we relate to it because we are now living in the tense world under those atomic foundations. Only time will tell if he's actually doomed us or given us a chance to live on longer because of it. And the way the central performance captures that duality, making us think not just more deeply about the film's questions, but also about the man behind a changing world, is as effective as a portrayal of a real-life figure can be. But that was my video discussing Cillian Murphy's great performance in Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer. The actor exceeded my expectations in the film, and I was stunned seeing how, mostly in a quiet fashion, he was able to transfer the feelings of this man onto the big screen. There's so many scenes that highlight all the nuance he brought to the role, and I've only discussed just a few of them that stood out to me. I'm off to see the film in 70mm IMAX in the next few days, and I can't wait to see some of those intimate close-ups on an even bigger screen, and overall, witness Cillian's performance in that format. I'm sure it will be incredible, and having seen the film 4 times already, Murphy's performance has blown me away and continues to get better the more I watch it. I hope he does get some awards recognition come the end of the year, and while there's still a lot of films to come out in the build-up to the award shows, I think it will be incredibly hard to match what he did. But at the end of the day, I guess we'll soon find out, and regardless of him getting awards or not, this performance was definitely one to remember. But what do you think towards how Cillian Murphy portrayed J. Robert Oppenheimer in Nolan's film, and do you agree that his performance perfectly communicated both the external and internal moral dilemmas of the real-life figure? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. For more breakdown and topical videos on Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer, then subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. Also, if you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like rating and follow me on social media via the links in the description. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I've been Cortex, and as always, make some noise.